Okay, so this is another short video I'm putting together to walk us through some of the configurations we're going to be working with for the Sam's Club database. All right, so I've done it in the previous video I put together. I shown kind of the basics, where, how you get to it. One thing to remember, I'll show you as we crawl down here. Um, there's different databases out here. So basically, what I would ask each team to do is simply pick one. All right, they have different data. The structure of it's the same. The content is a little bit different. So just basically pick one database that you'll be working with and download it and expand it from the zip file and go from there. Okay, so that's first. Um, Talked last time about the ERD, the database design, the enterprise, the entity relationship diagram, which really shows the structure of the database and what all the fields mean. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at that, review it, look at the fields themselves. So there's a part of the ERD which describes the fields and kind of what they mean. There's a title, there's a field name, but there's also a description associated with it. All right. So that's the second. So I want to take a look at that. Now, what I'm going to do here is I want to take a look at this step one, which is this get acclimated to your database. So this is a couple of exercises we want to go through to get familiarized with the database, get familiarized with the Sam's Club database and some of the basic mechanics of it. Right. So if you download the document, and what we will see is, so this is the first step we're going to want to do in the Sam's Club exercise. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is have somebody load it onto a team member's laptop and expand it out. All right. Um, so first thing we're going to want to do is, once you have it out and we have the database out there, we take a look at it. So I have it on my machine as well. All right, so we want to take a look at the members table. Here we are. So this is the members table. All right, so this is the basic structure. There's 15,000 records. Remember, the thing you want to look at when you're looking at access, you see this little this counter down here. This will tell you the size of the database. All right, you can only see like 30 or so rows on the screen at any given time. All right, but this will tell you, it'll tell you kind of where you're positioned right now. This is 25, so it's 25 per screen. All right, but there are 15,375 rows in this database. Excuse me, in this table, in this database. All right. So we can look at, so a couple things we can look at with the table. We can view the design view. All right, so this is what we call, one of the things in Access that you want to take a look at is there's concepts of different views. We can look at a table in what we call the datasheet view, which is the content of all the data that's contained in the database, in a tabular form. And then we can also look at it in design view. All right, so design view is, the description. So remember we talked about databases are made up of rules. All right, so this is the rules of the database. This is kind of a structured way of describing what that table looks like. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, or 5 columns in the database. These are the names, and these are the data types. All right, there's an optional description. We don't have a description in there. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then down here you'll see actually even more details about the field, even more details around the characteristics of each field. All right, so we'll say it's short text, but the field size, format, we don't have to worry about this for the exercises we're going to be working with. It's membership number, zip code, the membership type, renewal date, and join date. All right. So there's one thing about this table. If we look at it, there is no primary key on this table right now. All right. So one of the things we want to do, one of the things we called out in our exercise here, is to add the primary key. Now, primary key can be made up of either one or many fields. All right. The main thing about it is it has to make that row unique. All right. So it's the uniqueness is the feature we're looking for. All right. So whether it's one field, whether it's 10 fields, so long as it makes it unique, that will make it a key. All right. So in this case, all we're going to want to do is we're going to take the membership number and we're going to make that the primary key. The way you do that, you come up here, you click, and it is now the primary key. You'll see the primary key. You'll see the field that has a primary key has this little highlight, little key on it. Okay. So that is that. We actually, what we want to do is we want to save. Once you make the changes, we need to make a save on them. Okay. All right. So we'll come back in. So let's look at our introduction again. Let's look at our Word document. So we've done that. So primary key. Let's look at the store visits. Okay, so we're looking at there's a couple questions we're going to ask on this one. So let's go back in and let us restart the database. All right, and we're going to look at store visits. We'll double click on that. So once again, it shows up in datasheet view by default. But if we also click on design view, similar to what we saw with the members table, what the fields are, what the names are, what the data looks like, and then also specific information if we need that. Okay. So let's go take a look at our description of what we want to do with that. All right. So what we want to do as we look at the store visits table, we talk around tender, different tender types mean. If we look at our ERD, which is going to be, let's look at the ERD. Okay. What you would do is you look down here and we see our different tender types. So tender, basically the concept of tender is what somebody will pay, the amount, as it says, offered, that is tendered or offered for the purchase. So what will happen is, say for example, you buy something, all right, for $14.95, and what you tender is $15 in cash. All right. So the tender amount is $15. The purchase amount is $14.95. All right. So that's the amount you actually is submitted, and then the delta between that and the actual price is basically what the customer would get back in change. Right. So we've captured that information, and in addition, what we do is we also capture this information about the type of payment. All right. So cash, check, gift card, different types of credit cards. All right, a code associated for each one of these. So the idea is that you could go back and say, okay, what did people pay? Basically, how much did they buy? How much did they pay? Did they pay $20 or $50 or whatever for a $30 purchase? And then how was that payment made? All right, so this would be type of information you would capture. You would want to capture at the visit level, and then be able to go back and match up and say, okay, what's percentage of our customers? Take it for an example. What percentage of the customers pay in cash? What percentage pay in gift cards? What percentage pay? Are there days of the week when people pay more cash or people pay more gift cards? Is there patterns that we can use and plan around that? All right. So we can take a look at that. So that's actually, what you would do is, to answer that question, you would come back and refer to the description that's in the ERDs. Okay. So if we come back in, we'll take another look. So we talk about our tender amount. The unique item count is the scan count. Is the same as the scan count, and sometimes the scan count is more. The idea in that case would be the unique item count is what unique item is purchased, and then the scan count is the numbers of those unique items that are actually scanned. So you can buy one can of tuna. You can buy a can of tuna fish. All right, that's going to have a unique item count, item number, and then you can buy 25 cans of that same item. All right, which would be so the scan count would be 25. The unique item count would be 1. All right. Set the primary key for the store visits table. Same kind of exercise. We come back in here. Call up our database. It's open right now. It's actually we're already at the design view. We'll say the visit number is going to be our primary key. And we'll click the primary key, and now that's set. And we can save that. If actually one way to save it, you can just save. Click the top and it'll do the save. Data sheet view. Right. You don't see the primary key in the data sheet view. You need to go to the design view to see what the key is defined. All right. As we come down, let's see what would you expect that a member? What would you expect that a member visited a store one or many times in a given month? Well, theoretically, I guess it depends on the individual customer, but if you get a repeat customer, usually a customer, especially in the membership, you would probably expect to see a customer more than once a month. But once again, that would be something that would be, an interesting question to ask. What percentage of our customers show up more than once a month? All right. So. And then we say here, okay, so that'd be something that you could derive using a query, all right? So then the relationship between the store visits table and the member table, all right? So the visits, let's take a look at our design again. And let's go to we're actually going to go to do this, data sheet view. So if we look at all right, this is our store visits table. This is our members table, all right? And what we have is a common field between the two. All right, so the membership field, the primary key is the primary key for that field is the membership number. On the store visits, we also have a membership number, all right? And the two of them, basically, that's how the two tables are related together. So if I wanted to develop a query, so I'm going to create a query here. Go to query design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the table. So I'm going to use store visits and members. No, I do not want that. And we will also do tables, and we'll do members. Add. If you'll see, what happens is, this is when I'm going to write a query. It will actually, Access is smart enough, it will actually link the two together. All right. So what I can do is, if you want to get an idea of how many, so we'll do a real simple query here. What we want to see is, okay, we want to see for each member, we want the detail of how many times they visited over the course of a month. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to put the member number, the member type, and we'll put their zip code. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll then also put in the visit number, where we have the member. So we'll take the visit time and date. And we'll do, I think that should give us at least a starting point on this. Time and date. I'll say total unique item count, just to put it out there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm building a query here. So the query is going to show us, we're going to link the store visits to the members. All right, so we'll take the membership number, what the type is, where they're from this table, for the members table, and then we'll match it against all of the stored visits. So it'll be the visit number, the transaction date, the transaction time, and the total of unique items they purchased. All right, and what we want to do is we'll do a sort. We'll put a sort on it. We'll make it a ascending sort on the membership number, just so we get everything organized. All right. I come up here, I can then run an execution of that. I just come up here and do run. And what it will do is it'll actually pull up the the results of matching those two tables together. All right, so that's what this is. This is what is known as a join. All right. So what you do is you join two tables together over a common field, and then you get the results. So as you can see here, we've got, this is all this is just the first cut at this. But what we've got is this first member here. They visited 3 times. They visited on the 11th and the 13th. Actually, they visited twice. Appears they visited twice on the 11th. All right. We don't have a time. Time transaction. One sec. Let's pull this out. Transaction time. Oh, so this is the time. So they actually visited. It looks like they went through this twice. All right. So we'll probably want to maybe explore this a bit more and kind of see what this behavior was. So it was on the same day. They were there twice around the same time. So maybe they went through it twice. Maybe they were doing a return. Maybe, so there's something had happened with this first one here that we want to explore more. But here's another one. Another customer here also went through 2 times. Here's another customer here, visited. Actually interesting, because what we've got is on these transactions we see some interesting numbers here, because what we've got is a different visit numbers. All right, so they're different visit numbers, but transactions all about the same time. Transactions probably all around, within a certain range. So it'd be interesting to kind of go back and say, okay, now what is happening with this? I'm not passing judgment on it. We're just working with raw data right now. But that would be something we want to maybe take a look at and explore. About, a bunch of people like this person here, though, 10167223, visited on the 16th. Actually, both the 6th and the 16th. So it'd be interesting to see what is actually happening with this data. What is this behavior? Why are we collecting this type of data, especially since they have different unique visit numbers? All right. So that's just an example of of the types of data and the types of things we're going to be doing as we start going through and exploring the data that are in these tables. Okay. So we'll go back. We'll go to our document again. The relationship between members. So we'll look at the item description. Now, one thing about one thing to understand about some of the data is in these tables, depending on what database you've got in there. Some of the data is bad. All right, so not everything you get. Remember, we talk around the quality of data. You really want to have good quality data. You can never make the assumption that your data has good quality. All right, so part of this exercise of what we're going to want to do as we're going through this is go through, kind of examine these tables and kind of clean some stuff up. Try to see where you've got things that don't make sense. Like bad descriptions. Well, let's take a look at the item description, for example. So we'll look at the item description table. We'll double click on that. Now we have primary description and the brand name. All right. So if you take a look, we've got actually some we've got some data here. So if you take a look at some of these, like here's a brand name. Here's a brand name that has a star in it. Okay. And we go down, we're kind of further. And we have another brand name that's got a null in it. All right. And a whole bunch of stuff that's got nulls in it. All right. So one of the things we maybe want to take a look at is, okay, well, let's clean up some of these nulls. Here's something that's got a dot in it. All right. So the data is not, and here's fields here, the secondary descriptions are blank. All right. So really what we want to do is, part of this exercise is we're going to want to go through and identify stuff. How many of these fields are blank? And what you would do is, to give you an example, we would just simply create a query. So we'll create do query design. Let's look at the item description table. Do some cleanup on this. We'll close it. We'll take the item number through the end. And I'm just going to drop it onto the grid. All right, I'll just run a query. We'll just do a first query. Here's everything that's out there. All right, so that's that's the table. There's 3,945 items in this table at the bottom here. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to change. We're going to change. I'm going to go to Design View, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say brand name. I'm going to say equals null. So we want to get a list of everything that has the words null out there. So you see we have 669 null items. All right. So that's one thing we might want to clean up. Also in the design view, we can go back and say, or it's equal null, or we'll say blank, because you can actually have a space. We'll run that. All right. You see, we got different. Now we found some additional fields out here. All right. Not just null, not just the word null, but actually a blank character. Because a blank is a character. So just because you can't see anything doesn't mean it's not a character. It's actually, I think it's a 4-0. So a hex 4-0 because it's a blank. So blanks are different than nulls. All right. So one of the things we'll want to do is take a look at this, kind of examine these different columns. And here's another one we can do. We can come back in and say, we'll go back to our view here, design view, or we could say equals dot. So if there's a dot in there, here's one with a dot, period. So you can kind of go through, some of the stuff is going to be kind of an exercise in scanning through, some of these fields, especially like the brand name field or some of the other ones, which may have some garbage in them or may not have correct data, and then figure out what we want to put in there. Like, for example, what we might want to do for the brand name is, okay, we can say, put a primary description. We can update. And I'll do this in another query later, but we can do do something from a strategy perspective and say, okay, we can take what's in the primary description and put that into the brand name if we don't know what the brand name is. Or flag it or put something else in here other than just null. All right, so we'll go through updates a bit later. All right, so that's basically just want to kind of give you this idea of the data. And the other thing you might want to take a look at is also look at the members table as well. See if make sure that the data in the members table looks good in terms of, if there's any member types that are missing. Now the date should be good because the dates actually have the dates have a rule associated with, so everything in that table has to be a date. But you might want to do is make sure you don't have any blanks in the member type field. So you write a query and just kind of go back and say, okay, it looks good, but let's just verify it. All right. So let's go back and take a look at what as we're walking through our exercise here. Item scanned. Do a set the primary key. Well, let's go back. We'll set the primary key on that. So just get that out of the way. So in this case, we go to, once again, we go to our design view. Oh, no, I do not, because actually what I need to do is I actually have to close this query. So what happens is if you have something open, like if you're using a table, you'll say no. Let's go back. If you're in the process of you're using it in a query or you're using it for something, you can't modify it. Now this should be freed up now. Do it back to design view. Got it. Okay, field number 1. It's now the primary key. We'll save it. And we can close it. And I think the list, just take a look at the last table here, or our last exercise is item scanned. All right, and so this will actually step you through. So this is kind of an exercise here. This ABC, this number 6 was just an exercise in kind of working through developing queries, different types of queries, run the queries out, and the sorts. Okay, some different exercises, and this is just something you want to kind of go through so you get comfortable understanding how this stuff goes, because basically this is going to be the foundation of what we'll be using to analyze the data in order to get the information we're going to need to put up onto the dashboard. So there's a couple here, 6 and 7 are both different examples of query. All right. Okay, so what we need to do, so really what this exercise is this next, this exercise really is a matter of developing some queries. So taking a look at, we take a look at what we have here. So what we want to do is come up a couple new queries, come up with a query that a store manager would want to use to make decisions. So the idea is, you might be, here's some of the examples would be here. One would be, worst performing zip codes, worst performing items, best performing items, top members, maybe worst members, best or worst shopping days, and try to figure out what day of the week these things are. So there's a couple different exercises. What I ask you to do is develop a couple queries, kind of, what you do is going to go through this, do a couple queries, play around a couple queries, and, kind of get comfortable with it. And then we'll build upon that. We'll do another, I'm probably going to do another video showing you more features of Access and more features of, kind of how you can do upgrade queries and make table queries and things like that. But I just want to get comfortable with being able to get into Access, be able to maneuver around the Sam's Club database, build some basic queries, be able to get some data back, and kind of see how that works. All right, so we're going to have additional queries. So I'm going to be recording a couple of additional videos that come along that will work with this in concert with this. Okay, so any questions, let me know, and we'll continue to move ahead. Thank you.